So late last night, I posted this on the community tab asking for some of your guys' bold NHL opinions for today's NHL Agree or Disagree. These are very fun to do. You guys seem to like them as well. I like being interactive with you guys and, giving you guys a chance to be a part of the videos. If your comment does not get featured in this video, don't be mad about it. There is going to be many more opportunities. You just got to keep an eye out on the community tab. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Starting off with this comment, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name because I know I'm just going to mess it up, but you guys can see it right there, and he says, Ovechkin will end up first in all-time goals by the time he retires. I'm going to disagree just because I think you'd have to be on like a ridiculous pace until he's like 40 years old if he does want to break the record. I certainly hope he does, and I think Ovechkin is kind of trying to do it as well, and he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down just yet, so I think if anyone is going to do it, it will be Alex Ovechkin. I just think it's a really ridiculous pace that he'd have to keep up with until he's like 40 years old. I'm gonna say no, but I'm certainly pulling for him and I hope he does. This next comment comes from Quackby or Quackby, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that, but they say diving/embellishment should be a fine and a suspension. I'm gonna disagree just because I think that's a little bit ridiculous, but if the diving and embellishment kind of gets out of hand and we start seeing it more and more come in the game, because you don't see it too often, but obviously there are some instances. Obviously we've seen it the other night with Essa Lindell doing it like 3 times in a row. That was ridiculous, and I think it was warranted that he did get a penalty. So for right now, I think just getting a penalty for diving and embellishment should be fine, but if it does get out of hand and it just happens way too often in the NHL, I definitely think a fine and a suspension could be in the works, because then it would make people just not want to do it at all, because getting fined or suspended for embellishment would be pretty embarrassing, and I think that would definitely cut back on it. But for right now, I think the penalty is fine, but if it does get out of hand, then I definitely think this is something we could see, but for right now, I'm going to disagree. This next comment comes from Alexander Weiss, who says the Detroit Red Wings can compete for a playoff spot next year and maybe make it. I wish, but I'm going to have to disagree. Obviously, all you guys know this is my favorite team, but I think the 2021 season is when we could potentially start making some noise and getting back into playoff conversation. I think next year we will be better than we were this year, though I think we might have a year kind of like the Vancouver Canucks where we're kind of competing for a playoff spot a little bit late in the year, but everyone kind of knows it's not going to happen and we're not going to make the playoffs. So I wish this was true, but I'm going to have to disagree. I don't think Detroit really has any shot at making the playoffs next season. This next comment comes from Rush57, who says Mitch Marner is the most valuable asset for the Leafs, ahead of Austin Matthews and John Tavares barely. I'm actually going to agree with this one. I'm a big fan of Mitch Marner, and I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree and say Austin Matthews is their most valuable asset, but I'm just a huge fan of Mitch Marner. I think he is the heart and soul of this team, and over the past 2 seasons, he was the best player. Obviously, Austin Matthews did miss a little bit of time with injury this past season and probably would have had more points than Mitch Marner if he would have played in all NHL games, but I still think Mitch Marner is the most valuable asset. I feel like this team lives or dies with Mitch Marner. He's their heart and soul, so for me, I'm going to say agree. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but that's just my opinion. This next comment comes from a name with kind of just a bunch of letters in it, but they say, did Kane have a better season than Crosby? I'm assuming he means Patrick Kane, and I'm actually going to say yes on this one, and this one kind of caught my eye early when looking through these because the Hart Trophy finalists were just released. It was Kucherov, Crosby, and McDavid, and I kind of think Patrick Kane got snubbed. He literally did everything he could for that Chicago team this year to kind of keep them in contention and in talks for a playoff spot throughout the whole season, and it's not even close. Pittsburgh is a much better team than Chicago Blackhawks, so I think Kane had a more valuable season to his team than Sidney Crosby did. That's just my opinion. I'm not hating on Crosby because they both have phenomenal seasons, but in my opinion, I think Patrick Kane did have a better season than Sidney Crosby. Next comment comes from Aaron, who says Colorado will win the President's Trophy next year. I'm going to disagree with this one, but I definitely think they have the potential to be one of the top teams in the league. You look at obviously having McKinnon, Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen. Tyson Josieph's going to be a year older. Hopefully they can bring Tyson Barrie back, but then they're going to have Cale Makar for the full 82-game season. Hopefully, if he does stay healthy, he more than likely will be there. And then you're adding on another 4th overall pick who could potentially be NHL ready and be able to come in and help this team right away. So I don't think they're a favorite for the President's Trophy, but I definitely do think they have the potential to be one of the powerhouses in the NHL next season. Next comment comes from Dank the Tank, who says Brock Besser will score 40 goals next year. I'm going to agree with this one, and I honestly think he could have scored 40 goals this season if he was healthy for the full 82 game stretch. He's one of the league's most young and up and coming amazing goal scorers, and getting set up by guys like Bo Horvat and Elias Pettersson on the power play throughout next season. Hopefully he does stay healthy, because if he does, in my opinion, he will most definitely be a 40 goal scorer. The next comment comes from Fat Kid Inc., who says Poehling will be a Calder finalist next year, and I honestly think he has the potential to. There is going to be a ton of rookies in that conversation next year, in my opinion. Guys like Kakko, Hughes, Cale Makar, Ryan Poehling, and obviously I'm probably missing a bunch of guys, but those are just the ones that come to my head immediately. So I'm honestly going to say disagree, just because there is a ton of players who I think will be in that conversation, but I definitely think he still will have a fantastic season and be a pretty big piece for the Montreal Canadiens next year and moving forward. I'm a big fan of Poehling. Obviously, he made a pretty big impact in his NHL debut. Hopefully, he can keep that up, and I definitely think he could be potentially a finalist for the Calder next year, but if I were to give a guess, I'm going to disagree. This next comment comes from Itch Strikers, who says Kaapo Kakko gets drafted number 1 overall. I'm going to disagree. I don't see the New Jersey Devils passing on Jack Hughes, but I definitely think the gap between Kakko and Hughes is much closer than it was at the start of the season, and I don't really think any team is going to be upset if they don't get Jack Hughes and they still get Kaapo Kakko, because in my opinion, if you get one of these guys, you're getting a franchise talent who could potentially, speed up your rebuild and turn your franchise around. I think Kaapo Kakko is going to be an amazing talent in the NHL, and I think he's going to land with the New York Rangers, and that would be a pretty good fit for him in my opinion. So I don't think he gets drafted number 1 overall, but I definitely think he's still going to be an amazing player. Now finishing off the video with another comment from Rush57, who says the Edmonton Oilers will fully turn the ship around next season and finish with 100 plus points and make the playoffs. I'm going to disagree with this one. I predicted them to do that this year, but now I really didn't see anything positive from them besides Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and Nugent Hopkins and those guys to really think that this team could potentially turn it around. I have to see them make some pretty significant moves in the offseason if I do want to go out on a limb and say this, so I'm going to disagree with this one, but I hope it happens because I really feel bad for Connor McDavid. So that is going to wrap up the video. I really hope you guys did enjoy, and make sure to let me know down in the comment section your opinion on all of these comments. And like I said at the beginning, if your comment wasn't featured in this video, I apologize. I will try to get as many different people in as I can. I also apologize for putting the same guy for 2 comments in this one. I didn't really realize until I was actually recording the video, but nonetheless, just keep an eye out on the community tab. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.